Okay, hello everybody and welcome. Thanks for joining us. Today I'm going to do the last in the series of webinars around ERP and HCM. So for those of you that have joined us all the way through, we have spent a bit of time talking about what Cloud ERP is. We've talked about how you move to Cloud, reporting in Cloud, and how you integrate in Cloud. And today we're going to be talking about what happens after go live. What's the difference now you've got a new infrastructure? Each one of those has been recorded. You'll find it on our YouTube page, or alternatively, if you email us at info@inoapps.com, we'll send you links to them if you struggle to find them. And also today's will be recorded, so that we'll share that with you along with the presentation shortly after the conclusion of today's webinar. Bit of background, my name is Phil Wilson. Been implementing ERP and HCM solutions for 25 plus years. Been with Inoapps now for 10 years and been quite involved in our journey to cloud, which really is the whole purpose of these webinars, is to share our experience, share our findings with people. So hopefully you find it informative. It'll last about 30 minutes. As I mentioned, it's the last in the series. There will be another series being released shortly, but for today we're going to focus on a very clear agenda, which is how you need to think about cloud in your organisation moving forward. A different way of thinking, a different way of spending your time and your effort. Then we're going to focus on what's changed in the life of a finance manager or HR manager, and how cloud applications have moved on and can help on a daily basis. And then talk about a real difference, which is what does the support model look like? What's changed from the old on-prem systems or the old systems you used to have? And then finally, want to focus and drop down and look at what's next. How to continue to leverage what a lot of people fail to do, which is leverage the investment and keep moving it forward. In terms of some admin, depending on whether you're using a PC or a tablet, you'll be able to see a menu bar. Through that, if you go to questions, you can ask any of us a question, and we encourage it to be as interactive as possible. We'll obviously capture the questions and include them in the video edit and in the email that comes through with the slides. But ask questions at any time. I'll come back to them at the end and see if there's any that have not been addressed, and if we can quickly address them if we've got time. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Inoapps, for those of you beginning with us since the beginning, been out doing Oracle-based solutions, predominantly on-prem to start off with, then moving to cloud for over 10 years now. A number of successful cloud projects, and for each of those projects, we've got a footprint that talks a bit about whether they're doing finance, whether they're doing procurement, whether they're doing projects, HCM, Taleo, etc. And again, so these will be in the slides. I guess the story here is actually, we've been doing this now for a number of years. We've got some real experience of customers, got some real experience of implementations, can share what really does work and some of the challenges that we're seeing also. As background, Oracle's been in the cloud market for some time, and we now have a very mature set of fully integrated clouds, be it for ERP, HCM, CX, so CRM, or enterprise portfolio management, so the old Hyperion suite. And in each of those areas, so this is an example of HR, very, very, very wide breadth of functionality around not just core HR, but workforce management in HCM world. Plus all the Taleo, talent management, recruiting and onboarding, etc. The benefits of going to cloud, you can get up and running quickly. You can take the opportunity to standardize processes. You can make the focus to be more about the data that's coming out of the system and actually use the data to the effect it was intended, which is make better business decisions. Also, cloud and the way cloud gets deployed will allow you to think about eliminating the need for expensive customizations, increasing adoption and boosting productivity. And also, because it's cloud, because it's consumed as a service, as a subscription, you will then have the opportunity to stay up to date with the upgrades. So every 6 months there's a new version, which given the way that SaaS software is structured and implemented, means you're no longer restricted typically by some of the stuff you've done in the past with on-premise solutions from going to that latest release. So, I'll run through that quite quickly, I apologise, but I want to get into the main part of the presentation. So, how does cloud require a different way of thinking in the organisation? Before, I think a lot of organisations spent a lot of time just keeping the lights on. And actually, you know, it was all about uptime, it was all about performance, and therefore you didn't really focus on what was next. You didn't focus on achieving the return on investment. You didn't focus and spend time collaborating with the businesses typically around how we can help people do their jobs in each of the business areas. And cloud gives you this. Cloud gives you the ability, gives you the platform to think about how you're going to achieve some of this. And also, you know, spend time on what makes you different instead of just spending time running to stand still. I absolutely, we've seen organisations redeploy, reuse some of the support aspects. You know, there are still going to be other systems you need to keep the lights on. There's going to be other systems you need to integrate to. There's going to be other challenges around people's desktops, etc. But you know, people have reinvested not just money, the time of people to be more advocacy and more looking forward to what's coming down the line and how we can move customers forward. So it is an absolutely different way of thinking. In terms of what that's meant to typically a finance manager or a HR manager, the systems are now designed, particularly in a cloud world, to let you focus on value add activities, not burden you with process that you have to adhere to in order to complete a process within the system. So if I take one example from a HR perspective, in many systems it was quite convoluted to do a period close. You had to go into many different screens, you had to log in different profiles. What Cloud ERP does, in Oracle's terminology, it brings all that onto one display, brings all that visibility into one screen. It shows you at a glance what you need to focus your attention on. It shows you at a glance the status of all the ledgers and the close status. And it gives you clear visibility of what transactions require your attention. So instead of having to sign on to 3 or 4 different sub-ledgers, now you get all that presented on one screen, which has improved performance, has improved your visibility of what's going on. And we're seeing customers close their books a lot quicker than maybe they could do historically on other systems. Data is now delivered to your desktop, whether it's via a dashboard or whether it's via an email, showing you what's going on in each module, what the status, in this example AP, so you know, what's my open invoice chart look like in terms of value by customer, who's the biggest vendors, what's the invoice history chart look like, and this is real time, so as data changes, these get updated and will be delivered back to the screen in real time. From the HR perspective, and I'm going to pick on one area, I could pick on a few areas around HR, HCM. We've seen people get a lot more focused on how you attract new talent with some of the software that's now available in cloud, and the fact your core HR system is stable, it's performant. We're now seeing people focus on what is important to a company, which is attracting new talent, attracting the best talent out there in the market. So some of the acquisitions that they made in the cloud world have brought this functionality to Oracle's footprint. So you can look at simplifying processes, so simplifying new starter processes, have an integration between a recruitment and an onboarding and a HR system, and also it's through a common single interface. Which means that it's fully integrated, you've no longer got a third-party recruitment system, it's embedded in the core applications. Same with workforce, communicate better to your employees, provide better intelligence to your managers, collaborate with your people within your community, within your company by using social networking. Have actionable insights. So whether there's a review process, whether there's an issue that needs to be addressed, or whether it's you need to approve a offer letter, or it's someone's probation review, let the system proactively tell you what needs to be done and when. And actually use the data, use the systems to help drive things. Performance goals, talent management, again, not only do you want to attract new talent, you want to retain them. And to retain them, you've got to do full 360-degree reviews, you've got to support them through their career development, you've got to think about how you can collaboratively bring the information together as part of that review process. Again, as indicated, it's all part of one software stack, all part of one system. So I mentioned earlier that the way that you have to consider support has drastically changed as well. Keeping the lights on isn't important. Oracle has the responsibility to deliver the service back to you with a relevant service level agreement. And one of the things that we've found is that people now have to think about different things. And I break these down into a number of areas. So, for example, we're seeing companies just want business insurance. So it's business as usual type support, it's functional support and how-to questions. It's not nowadays about how the software is not working, or there's outages or anything like that. The help desk is there to do functional type support. So that takes away the technical element, takes away the need necessarily to have lots of technical expertise. You'll still need technical expertise, you'll have other systems to support, but you've moved that responsibility off to a third party in Oracle's cloud environment. The other thing we see is companies now need to understand what's coming down the path. So in a SaaS model, you have to take the upgrades. It's one of the benefits in terms of consuming new features. So the product has always been developed, it's always been enhanced. In on-prem world, some people used to maybe wait a couple of years or wait a few releases before doing this. In cloud, there's some real limits, and there's limits there to make sure that you are staying up with the latest release. And as I mentioned earlier, the way that it's implemented, the way it's supported is to allow it to be upgradable easily without any issues or concerns around objects that may have given you challenges in the past. So one of the things we're seeing is we're becoming a lot more proactive around telling people what's coming down the line as part of our support service. And if you haven't got a third-party support service, it's one of the things you need to think about as well, which is, how do I know what's coming down the track? How do I know what new functionality there is? How do I know whether there's functionality there that I use today that's going to impact me, that I know I now need to test properly as part of the next release? Or is it something we had in the original project that we put out there as a futures, and now 6 months down the line there's functionality there? How do I know that I can take advantage of that functionality? So one of the things that we tend to do is, for all our cloud customers who use us for the advocacy type role, we put together regular updates, regular communications about what is coming down the line, what is new, what are the things that are going to affect you in terms of new functionality, what are the things that maybe you're not using today but you might be interested in. And again, we come and talk to customers now on a regular basis about new features, new functionality. And because it's common software, it's the same footprint as everyone gets. So again, we can speed the process up around that and share that quite easily with people. So a lot more about advocacy, a lot more about making sure that people understand what's coming down the line, and making sure that people are taking the advantage to move to the latest releases and take advantage of their investment in the software as a service. Testing. So with the level of releases, so 2 a year, plus also there are patch cycles that typically are consumed monthly. There's a massive importance now put on testing, and a lot of companies aren't necessarily ready for this because the testing that they're doing might have been as part of the initial implementation, user acceptance testing, and therefore the next time they test will be when they next did a major upgrade, which might be 2 years down the line. There's other companies who, as a matter of course, have very robust regression and non-regression testing cycles. So everybody's at a different point. The importance here is that whether it's monthly patch cycles or whether it's biannual upgrades to the core software, you need to be aware it's coming down the line. You need to know roughly when it's going to be. You need to understand what tests you want to undertake as part of that testing cycle. And those tests need to be thorough, they need to be testing for the negative and the positive, and also if there's new configuration coming down the track, they need to be targeted at making sure that configuration is delivered correctly. Again, different companies are doing different things. For a lot of companies, we're seeing that we can help alleviate some of the challenges, some of the effort around that by doing some of the core testing cycles for them, using our test factories, and that means that they can then focus on the things that they really want to nail and make sure that they're working correctly. Other companies have already got all that testing rigor in place and still doing it themselves, but it's an important thing not to forget, but otherwise you will find that you're in a situation where Oracle or SaaS vendor is putting you under pressure to upgrade, and you need to be sure that the system is going to operate correctly after you've done the upgrade, so you need to be ready to get in that cycle. And finally, what's next? So we've spent a lot of time over a few months that we've been running these. So we've spoken about the benefits, we've spoken about the completeness of the footprint, we've spoken about why people make that move, the justification, the return on investment. We've spoken about how you make that move, so hybrid, step change, big bang, etc. We've also then looked at, once you're there, what can you do with it? What's the new experience like? What are the benefits? We spoke a bit about how you'd integrate into it. So everybody's got an integration requirement, whether it's to BACS or whether it's to invoice billing systems or whether it's to another sales system, etc. So we've spoken about integration. We've also spoken about reporting and the improvements therein within the cloud ERP and HCM offering. But actually, it's not the end of the journey. As I mentioned in the previous section, the software is always developing, the software is always being developed, the software is always being released on a frequent basis for consumption. So it's important to understand what you want to do with the software. It's important to focus on what's down the road, not do what we've seen historically, which is just focus on keeping the lights on and standing still. So our experience is that more than 45% of clients that initially go live maybe with one of the products will come back and want to talk, if not implement or kick off a project to look at implementing additional functionality within 6 months of the initial go live, which is a vastly different picture than what we used to have with on-premise. A lot of them consume something like expenses or maybe Taleo as an add-on because they're fairly quick wins and plug into the core applications very quickly. Planning, budgeting, cloud service, PBCS, again, whether they do it in the first phase or do it in the second phase, the ability to consume that now in the cloud world is greatly enhanced, and we're seeing people take that almost every time. It's almost something that gets added on to the list of things we're going to do, given the cost point of it. BICS, so BI, cloud services, again, if you've got data from different sources, if you want to start to have data visualization, if you want to start to have some really interesting and useful dashboards, not only from the cloud ERP data from other sources. BICS is something, BI cloud services, business intelligence cloud service, is something we're seeing added on all the time. It's a much better price performance point, and the functionality there is super rich. The other thing I'd say is, yes, people are taking more modules. They're taking them a lot quicker than they used to, because they're able to come out of the initial project lifecycle and get straight into looking at improving, looking at what's next. We're also seeing customers achieve more, if not reach the expected level of return on investment, a lot quicker than they used to. One factor in this is actually just the removal of the worry about infrastructure. So the removal of the worry about will it work, will it be performant, will it stay up, how do I do DR, etc. And there are two things where the fact that you don't have to worry about the infrastructure means you can focus on what's coming down the line. You can focus on the process flows, where maybe after a few months of running you realise it's not quite as good as you hoped it would be, or as efficient as you hoped it would be. And also, people are looking to consume more very quickly. It's definitely a different world that maybe we used to see with an on-premise environment, and one where I think as it evolves, people will switch on functionality as and when they need it. They'll maybe go for a quick win in terms of getting an initial core solution in there, and then add the extra bits once they've got a successful initial implementation. So go for a core but maybe restricted first drop, and then add functionality to it afterwards. So I've summarised what I think business as usual looks like after go live. I think we've covered a lot of subject areas during these webinars. As I mentioned earlier, we will be scheduling the next series, which again will take a different look at what's happening with the world of cloud in terms of new innovation and what's happening down the track, in order to keep people up to speed on market opportunities. All of the webinars will be recorded. Please, if you want to get hold of copies of them, email us at info@inoapps.com or myself at phil.wilson@inoapps.com. You can also use any of the social media channels to try and contact us, and we'll respond through those as well. I hope that this has been a useful webinar today, and that the series has been useful also. The feedback that we get is invaluable, and actually, we've had a lot of positive feedback from people who've attended. What I would encourage you, if you think we're missing something, if you've got some ideas, or if we've not covered an area in enough detail, again, reach out to us, either through the website, through info@inoapps.com, or on Twitter @inoapps. Many thanks for your time today. Apologies for the slight delay in starting the webinar off. Hope you found it really useful, and wish you all well for the rest of the day. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.